Prince William just made a historic decision that could reshape the monarchy forever, and Buckingham Palace is shaken. By approving a controversial title change for Queen Camilla and King Charles, he sparked a royal power shift critics are stunned, and the official documents prove this isn't just rumor. The shock move William's secret approval, land that would formally elevate Camilla title, and just ceremonial references to the king. What made this stunning was not the act itself, but the way it was done quietly, discreetly, and without the traditional layers of royal or parliamentary discussion. According to insiders, the meeting took place in Clarence House, where senior aides, lawyers, and courtiers discussed how this change could modernize the monarchy's image. William's signature, though symbolic, was described by one source as the green light Buckingham Palace didn't expect to get. When the news reached Buckingham Palace, the atmosphere reportedly turned tense. Courtiers we've seen holding emergency briefings, while royal correspondents noted a rare silence from the king's private office. There was a chill in the air, one insider said. Everyone realized this wasn't just about titles, it was about control. Traditionally, such matters require approval directly from the sovereign through a royal warrant. But this decision seemed to bypass the old system, which led to confusion among palace officials. Senior aides questioned whether William had acted independently or whether this move reflected a deeper agreement between father and son. The idea that an heir would influence or reigning monarch titles created a sense of unease. Acquired suggestion that the balance of power inside the palace may already be shifting. As one former courtier put it, it's rare to see a future king set the tone, while the current one is still on the throne. The implications were enormous. The palace staff began whispering about whether this marked the start of William's gradual takeover, not in name, but in influence. This decision not only reshaped Camilla, his image, but subtly redefined Charles, his own authority. The tremors were felt across every royal corridor, and the monarchy suddenly looked less stable, less united. That moment of decision sparked a deeper question. Could this secret approval up in centuries of royal order? The answer lies in the history and limitations of royal power itself, which brings us to the next point: what the rules actually say about changing royal titles. The old rules of royal titles, what can and can't change. Royal titles are not just words, they are instruments of law and history. In the British monarchy, only the reigning sovereign can formally grant or alter titles through something known as a royal warrant. This means that technically only King Charles III has the authority to change Camilla's title, not his son. However, in 2023, small but deliberate changes started surfacing. The term Queen Consort quietly disappeared from the royal family's official website, replaced by simply the Queen Camilla. It seemed minor, but to royal watchers, it was a major shift, a sign that internal decisions were being made long before they were announced publicly. Historically, the title Queen Consort is used to identify the wife of a reigning king without equating her status to the monarch himself. Removing consort erases that distinction, suggesting equality and royal representation. Past monarchs, including George VI and Queen Elizabeth II, maintained clear boundaries in titles to avoid constitutional confusion. That's why this new shift raised so many eyebrows. There's no real precedent for a title alteration mid-reign. The Church of England, where Charles serves as supreme governor, must also reflect any title change in its official prayers and ceremonies. That means every cathedral, every Sunday service mentioning the royal family would need to update how they referred to the Queen. Similarly, parliamentary documents, from old to proclamations, depend on these official designations. Changing them without due process creates uncertainty about what's formally recognized and what's not. Experts have pointed out that the House of Lords Act of 1999 and the Royal Marriages Act both defined roles in succession and ceremonial precedence. Yet there is no act that explicitly defines what happens when the title change is approved informally. As one historian said, this isn't just a name tweak, it's a constitutional experiment. That's why this moment matters. The transition from Queen Consort to simply Queen may sound like an update and language, but legally it edges Camilla closer to full sovereign presence. It is subtle but powerful, the kind of change that might quietly rewrite the way future monarchs and their spouses are viewed. With those boundaries blurred, the next part of the story becomes even more fascinating. How Camilla, his image, was deliberately reshaped over time, and how she went from a controversial figure to being firmly addressed as Queen Camilla in every royal document. The Miller's rise from Queen Consort to Queen Camilla. I made 2023 something subtle but historic happen. The royal family's official website removed the word consort from Camilla title. She was now listed simply as Queen Camilla. For most people this seemed like a natural transition, but for royal insiders and long-time watchers, it was a clear sign of how far Camilla had come and how carefully the palace had rebranded her role behind the scenes. The shift didn't happen overnight. Invitations to the May 6, 2023 coronation were the first major documents to drop consort. Suddenly press releases, state invitations, and ceremonial scripts all started referring to her as Queen Camilla. According to Vanity Fair, the palace deliberately chose the wording to reflect her growing status and acceptance, but many traditionalists were outraged. She was never meant to be queen, some argued, referring to Queen Elizabeth II's 2022 statement that Camilla should be known as Queen Cons. Sought out of respect for Diana's legacy, that clear distinction had now been erased, and not everyone was happy about it. Behind the scenes, this change had powerful meaning. It wasn't just about dropping a word in royal tradition. Titles reflect legitimacy, rank, and more. While standing Camilla, his original role as consort was meant to show that she supported the king, but did not share equal symbolic power. By removing the term, the monarchy sent a bold signal. Camilla was now standing beside Charles, not just his wife, but as queen, full stop. Church prayers were updated. Officials in the Commonwealth realms began using Queen Camilla in public ceremonies. Even in public speeches, Charles stopped clarifying her role. He simply called her my queen. This shift marked a key turning point in how the monarchy sees her, not just as the woman who stood by Charles, but as a central figure in royal leadership. As one palace aide put it, "We no longer correct people, she is Queen Camilla." That's the end of it, but the real question was, how far would this go? And what else would Charles do to raise her status even more? The answer came quickly when he started handing her real power, not just titles, but military honors and national roles. Charles empowers Camilla new titles and wrote, in August 2024, Camilla was appointed Vice Admiral of the United Kingdom, becoming the first woman in history to hold that honorary title. The announcement came quietly, tucked into a list of royal appointments, but for those who know how the palace works, it was a major moment. This was more than ceremonial. It tied Camilla directly to the military arm of the monarchy, a space traditionally dominated by male royals like Prince Philip and Prince William. This wasn't the only title Charles had given her. That's leading up to this, Camilla had already been named Colonel of the Grenadier Guards, patron of several military charities, and had taken over royal patronage is once held by the late Queen Elizabeth II. Each new role was part of a quiet strategy to make Camilla not just visible but central to the image of modern monarchy. Why does this matter? Because military titles are not just symbolic, they're connected to power, legacy, and history. When Charles gave Camilla the Vice Admiral title, he essentially placed her on par with other senior royals, and ceremonial ranking it also meant she would appear at more national events, military parades, and diplomatic receptions, not just as the king's wife, but as a royal leader in her own right. Royal watchers noticed the shift almost immediately. She's not just attending events, she's leading them now. One observer said her speeches became more polished, her solo appearances increased. She started representing the crown at major functions, especially when Charles was unavailable due to health or scheduling. It became clear that this was no longer about public acceptance, this was about preparation. As one former courtier put it, Charles is future-proofing the monarchy by raising Camilla his role. He wants her to be untouchable before William takes the throne. And this leads to a bigger question: where does Prince William fit into all of this? Because while Charles builds Camilla his image brick by brick, William's quiet approval behind the scenes has opened a door that might be harder to close. Let's explore exactly what he gains and what he risks by allowing this transformation to happen. What William gains and risks by supporting the change. Prince William's silent nod to the title shift wasn't just about protocol, it was about power, legacy, and the future of the monarchy. By quietly approving the move to call Camilla simply Queen, he sent a strong message. He's ready to modernize the royal structure, even if it stirs controversy. Some royal insiders say this was a calculated step by William to show the public and the palace that he's not afraid to make bold decisions behind the scenes. On the surface, it may seem like an act of loyalty, supporting his father's wishes. But the real game for William is control over the narrative. By showing unity now, he places himself as a figure of stability, someone who respects his father while still preparing for his own reign. A royal advisor said William knows he's the future, and by supporting this change, he's building political capital for what's to come. At the same time, this move helps shield the monarchy from unnecessary drama. The moment Camilla his title change becomes official and accepted, the public tension around her position dies down. William's support effectively neutralizes critics who still bring up Princess Diana's legacy or question Camilla's place beside the crown. In that way, it's also a step toward unity within the royal image, but it's not without risk. Traditionalists inside the palace, some of them advisors who served Queen Elizabeth II, are reportedly furious. They view William's approval as overstepping, even disrespectful. As one court source put it, this wasn't his decision to make, and people are talking about it in hushed tones. Some are calling it a royal overreach. If the public turns on the monarchy, especially if Charles' health worsens, critics could point back to this moment as a misstep. They'll say William played politics too soon, backed the wrong image, or helped push Camilla his influence further than the people were ready for. The worst-case scenario, that this decision causes a deep rift between father and son, just when the monarchy needs unity the most. As the crown slowly prepares for generational transition, William walks a tightrope, and this quiet title change might be the most dangerous step yet. And now the pressure lands squarely back on King Charles, who must balance his legacy, his image, and the woman at the heart of it all. Charles's dilemma, king caught between legacy and influence. For King Charles III, the decision to elevate Camilla his title may be a personal one, but it's also a deeply political act. He knows that every step she takes forward reshaped her mother's legacy, the public memory of Princess Diana, and of very foundations of royal tradition. Charles must now walk a delicate line, honoring Queen Elizabeth's historic standards while embracing a more modern monarchy. When Queen Elizabeth II gave her public blessing in February 2022, stating it was her sincere wish for Camilla to be known as Queen Consort, it was framed as a limit, a respectful title with boundaries. Charles took that message and stretched it by allowing Camilla to be addressed simply as Queen, and by backing her rising profile, he's actively reshaping what the monarchy looks like under his rule. But this comes at a cost. The more power and attention Camilla receives, the more questions emerge about Charles' own leadership. Critics have asked, is the king pushing Camilla too far into the spotlight to cover for his own declining presence? Others suggest he's being forced into these decisions, perhaps by senior aides, by Camilla's growing inner circle, or even by William himself. In public, Charles tries to appear unaffected, but insiders say the strain is showing. At recent appearances, the king has looked tired, even distant. One senior aide told the press the pressure is immense. He wants to give Camilla her due, but he's also watching the public mood shift with every new headline. The heart of the dilemma is this: if Camilla's image becomes too strong, it could make Charles look weak if he slows down due to health, as some rumors suggest, and she continues to carry the load. The balance of power inside the monarchy may tilt too far in her direction. That could spark tension with William, confusion among the public, and instability within the palace itself. So now the king must decide, does he pull back Camilla's growing role to reserve tradition, or does he fully embrace the change, even if it risks alienating key figures? That decision has left the palace divided, and those divisions are growing by the day, as we'll see next. The internal reaction inside Buckingham Palace has been anything but calm. The palace in turmoil. Behind the scenes reaction. Inside Buckingham Palace, the title change approval sparked immediate unrest the moment whispers reached senior courtiers that Prince William have given his backing, and that King Charles had not objected. Everything changed. Long-serving aides, many of whom worked under Queen Elizabeth II, were reportedly blindsided. In private meetings there was confusion, disagreement, and even quiet outrage. Some felt this decision had been rushed, others believed it had been kept deliberately hidden from key royal officers. According to palace insiders, a series of emergency briefings were called in the days after the shift was leaked to the press. Advisors debated messaging strategies, discussed whether to issue clarifying statements, and reviewed previous titles granted through royal warrant. There was panic. One insider said it was as if the rulebook had been rewritten overnight. The reaction wasn't just confusion, it became deeply political. Factions quickly emerged behind closed doors. On one side, supporters of Camilla, believing this was a natural next step in modernizing the monarchy. On the other, traditionalists, some fiercely loyal to Queen Hello as of its legacy, who saw the move as disrespectful and premature. "We're seeing a quiet civil war in the palace," noted one former private secretary. In the middle of this storm, leaks began. Rumors of plans to reverse or delay the title formalization made their way to the press. Anonymous palace sources hinted that not everyone was on board, and that certain aides were pushing to reinforce ceremonial boundaries, possibly by reintroducing the term Queen Consort in official materials again. While public silence was maintained behind the scenes, trust was breaking down. Protocol officers feared the line of authority had been blurred. Who's really making decisions now, the king, the heir, or someone else entirely? And more urgently, if this can happen so easily, what comes next? That question hung heavily in every meeting. And if there's one place where rules still matter most, it's a long tradition and the church, which leads us to the next critical challenge: how constitutional law and religious practice might complicate this already explosive shift in titles. The legal, constitutional, and church hurdles. Changing a royal title, especially for a reigning monarch spouse, isn't just a family matter, it's a constitutional puzzle that must navigate centuries-old rules, legal documents, and the Church of England's sacred protocols, despite public assumptions. The monarchy doesn't run on personality, it runs on paperwork, procedures, and precedent. For a title to change officially, it generally requires a royal warrant signed by the king. But if William's approval was part of the process, and not Charles alone, experts argue this could fall into a constitutional grey area. Royal lawyers are now quietly reviewing whether the shift from Queen Consort to Queen Camilla violates or simply stretches existing precedent. The language matters, said one royal historian. We're playing with legal fire. Then there's Parliament. While Parliament does not usually intervene and title changes, it holds the power to define the royal family's legal structure, especially when it impacts succession, public funds, or ceremonial representation. If members of Parliament believe this title change was rushed or improperly handled, a formal inquiry could be requested that would drag the issue into the political arena. And once that happens, public opinion becomes law's biggest weapon. Equally complicated is the Church of England, where Charles serves as supreme governor. Every prayer said for the king and queen must be approved, printed, and distributed. A title change in public doesn't automatically mean a title change, and religious observance priests and bishops reportedly sought Clare, if occasion, and got none. It puts us in a strange position, one senior clergy member said. We don't know what to call her and worship, and that matters. There's also the Commonwealth effect. Charles is head of state, and 14 other countries from Canada to Australia. Any official recognition of Queen Camilla, illegal documents, or ceremonies would require individual updates in each of those nations. So far, no synchronized plan has been shared, and foreign ministries are watching closely. All of this creates risk. If one domino falls, whether legal, religious, or political, the entire title change could be challenged, slowed, or even undone. The monarchy thrives on clarity, not confusion, and this move has opened more doors than it has closed, which raises a chilling possibility. If King Charles's health declines and his reign is cut short, what happens next? Who stays in power? Who steps forward? And does Queen Camilla remain queen when Prince William takes the throne? The palace may already be preparing for that scenario, and so should we. What happens after Charles's death? Camilla, his fate, and William's reign. If King Charles III dies, Prince William instantly becomes King William V. But all eyes would be on Queen Camilla. Would she remain queen or shift to Queen Dowager with her title already changed? Publicly, confusion could rise. Royal X, where it's one of a rare scenario, two queens in the spotlight at once. Some say Camilla may keep Her Majesty Queen Camilla for ceremonial use. Others suggest a quieter Queen Mother-style role, but there's no clear rulebook. One insider said we're in uncharted waters. Meanwhile, Queen Catherine would step into the full role of Queen Consort, while possibly navigating behind-the-scenes tension with